And we're live. And it's Thursday, and we're going to be getting started. And Jennifer's coming on board. Cheryl's relaxing for half a second, getting ready to get on. And we're going to be talking about metabolic health, metabolic syndrome, and the brain. We're talking about some articles, some new information that just came out, all related to the ability of it being preventable. And a lot of it is dealing with diet and lifestyle. So there's preventableness, there is improvable, and there is preventable. So those things there should be providing people hope. We're going to talk about caregiving. We're going to talk about the experiences, and it's painful. Sometimes when we talk about these things, because we're losing a family member, we're going to be dealing with it from a standpoint of even discussing it about as an identical twin. So that's really what we're going to be dealing with. And so we've been doing this series on Sundays nights and Thursdays. And we value your communications. We value your input. Especially if you know Cheryl, if you know her sister, if you know Jennifer, you know her parents and her grandmother Helen, if you know my mom, if you know Harmon Thames and Don Tamakana, and if your family has been impacted directly or indirectly with Alzheimer's, that's really what we're talking about, guys. That's really the main topic of our conversations is one, the story. So you're some of you to be prepared for what you're going to be going through as a caregiver, as a child, perhaps yourself. We're going to be talking we're going to talk about prevention. We're going to talk about lifestyle things you can do. We'll look to give you some hope. Even if you have the gene, if you found out that you have the gene, that doesn't mean it's inevitable. It means that you have the gene. There are things you can do. And more research is pulled out to show that. And pharmaceuticals is not the answer. Now, does the pharmaceutical companies have the power and research, and given the super duper duper Cooper studies and power of AI and that kind of stuff, do you think they possibly could? That's up to you to decide. However, we do know, for example, when they cured hepatitis C, you guys remember that, right? Hepatitis C, they came up with a drug that pretty much in a year eradicated hep C. Then at the end of that, the company that produced it, the main company that produced it, didn't have any more customers. And in not having any more customers, Goldman Sachs at the time said, curing the disease is not a sustainable business proposition. In other words, think about it. Name any disease where they could have a pill or a solution for to eradicate it. Guess what? You don't need them anymore. Their profits go out the door. Look at one of the most popular, sought after, and right now pretty expensive pills and shots to deal with people's gravity challenge or expanding waist value, right? People are paying $1,500 or more for that kind of treatment, but it doesn't fix it. You can lose pounds because that's what they scale to. They look at weight, the S's, but that isn't the solution. And I hear you grinding paper back there. There you go. And so, this is enough of that. There we go. Cool. So they turn off the whole idea is that if they cured those, then they wouldn't have any, they would be done. But guys, it's a lifestyle deal. So as long as you keep eating, they're going to keep making those pills. Okay. But could they do something? Potentially, yes. Are they doing something? Yeah. They're making more stuff to profit from. So that's where we're going at. And Jennifer just joining up. And good day, Jennifer.
Hello, George.
And you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, sir. We've got
Perfect.
this nailed
All
down.
right. And I got the one and only Cheryl next to me here.
Hello,
Hi.
beautiful.
Hi.
So yeah, Cheryl's not having a happy day. She's had there's some challenges with her grandchildren. She's got a grandchild that the Social Security is with someone cashed a check.
Someone stole her purse, stole her Social Security card, cashed $23,000 check in Texas. They are withholding her paychecks. She has no money. She's got 3 kids to support, and she makes a lot of money. They are withholding it all.
And they have been withholding it since July.
No, last December.
Oh, last December. Yeah, so they're and with the salary she has, we're talking now 6 figures that are being held. And now her car will be repossessed, and things like that, because they're not giving her any they're taking all
her whole paycheck.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's an outside thing. So a little bit distraught there, and rightly so. So anyway, so that's a sidebar going on here. So what's happening in your world this week, Jennifer?
Well, things seem to be moving along. If you were watching this live last week, I was talking about my mother starting on the protocol. Her doctor is still researching in the physician's desk reference. She is currently, we're using about a half a packet a day per her doctor.
Of the tea or the balance of the
tea.
Okay.
Mom suffers from a lot of IBS. She's got cognitive decline, which is more extensive than somebody at the age of 79. She's working her way through. She has a lot of other inside issues that she's dealing with at the same time, which in turn requires a lot of medication. But overall, seems to be really wanting to learn how to be the best version of herself, which is nice. So that's kind of pretty much how things have happened this week. Nothing on the caregiving side. Everything is pretty usual. Taking care of daily tasks, making meals. But I'm noticing that my mom is paying much more attention to what I eat and how I eat. And the water intake that I consume throughout the day, and the Celtic salt that I take. And anytime she's feeling a little off, where's your salt? I need your salt. So she's absorbing the information. But of course, it's a slow process for some people. And to be patient enough to show her the process at times is very challenging for me.
Sure.
I just want you to get it. But of course, I didn't get it when I started all of this. And it's very unrealistic to expect somebody else to get it. So I have to remind myself, I have to be patient. But I did actually get myself a book that I'm going to start reading. It's called Role Reversal: How to Take Care of Yourself and Your Aging Parents.
Oh, good.
So I feel as a caregiver, as both of you are or have been, that it's important to remember yourself, which I'm learning through my relationship with you folks and with our other families. And because as a caregiver, you put yourself last.
Right.
And I'm very much the type of person that always likes to take care of other people before I take care of myself. Because when you're taking care of yourself, you gotta focus a little bit more on change and how to move yourself forward. And that has probably been my biggest struggle over the past few months, is getting over myself and knowing that everything will work out as it should, while I continue to advocate for my parents and for other people.
So mom's coming along pretty good now. Paying more attention then, eh?
Yes. I think she's to a point where I think she's sick and tired of being sick and tired on medication. Because it's constant. You know, my mom takes about 13 different eye drops a day. And when she had on Thursdays, she goes to her hair appointment. And we didn't get all the drops in because it's, 30 minutes there, an hour and a half of the appointment, 30 minutes back, then there's dinner. And, it really throws off her day. And she's like, do I have to? And I'm like, you don't have to do anything. I'm assuming that these are going to benefit you per your eye doctor.
What are the drops for?
My mother used to get injections in her her right eye due to her retina, due to inflammation. Right. She had a bad injection and lost her eye a couple years ago. Oh. So she's completely blind in that eye. Oh. Her left eye, it was kind of a running joke. The left eye is the bad eye. That's because by the time they found her glaucoma that had been undiagnosed, it was too far gone. So we've got her right eye is blind, her left eye is in stage 4 glaucoma. Oh. So the vision is depleting. Sure. Which, my mother has always been an avid person with migraines, like my grandmother. And she broke her femur twice over the last 2 years. And that has finally healed. But in that process, you need to use a walker. You need to walk. Sure. Well, when you can't see, you're disoriented, you start to get a migraine, you get vertigo, you get this, you get that. You don't walk. And the longer you sit sedentary, the more you're going to damage your hips. So we're in this cycle right now where we're trying to jump, I'm trying to get her to jump off the ride. Sure. And, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, will this packet make me urinate if I'm out in public? Will my IBS, colitis, diverticulitis situations happen when I'm out? And if so, then I don't want to do anything. Everything is scary, but when you've been in that stuck state for so long, it makes it so difficult. And it's so scary for some people to take an extra little tiny step. And just the fact that she's doing a half a packet, guys, is like, Jesus is watching. Okay. So what about you guys? Other than your friends,
and with the migraine, the migraines, that we know that people that with the tea, the Unamate, they have eliminated their migraines because that's sugar induced. That's insulin resistance.
Yes, it is.
Dealing with the brain from that standpoint. So that'd be nice to get her at least have less frequency or less intensity. If that comes, that's a notable. That'll be a notable improvement for her. I think that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say, George, now that you said the word notable, and now it just sparks things in my head. She has been taking half a packet for a little bit over a week. And prior to that, she had headaches when she woke up every single morning.
Okay.
And I believe she's had one.
Aha.
Great.
Aha.
It was the aha moment by you saying notable.
Yeah. So write that down and let her know that that's an account in her favor. A change, a notable change. Because I was on a call last night. I was on a call with a bunch of swimmers, and one of the guys that's on the protocol. I didn't tell you this, but it was the first. It was noticeable. John was noticeably clear.
Really?
He wasn't like
stumbling over his words.
And lost. You know how he stumbles and gets lost. He was clear. He was just conversant. He didn't lose his words. Now he did lose because he got into a story and he lost me and Roger too. Because like, now where was I going with this? You know, it was the story about this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy going someplace in the West, and he got lost because I got lost and Roger got lost, and we that oh yeah, okay, now we're going. Then he was back on track, but he was going just fine on that story even. So, and I noticed, I'd let him know, I says, you know, this is a noticeable change in 2 months. Since it's about 2 months it's been in the protocol, that, you know, okay, there we go. There's a change, you know, and not just, he wants weight. Okay, he wants weight. He wants weight in the worst way.
He needs it bad. Yeah. He's not healthy. But
the little things on the inside have to be fixed before you get the big wow on the outside. But his shirts are looser. His mood is better. His conversation was clear. So there, how did Dad do? Is this appointment today or next week?
It's late in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
I can tell. I mean, I already know that there's insulin resistance there. He eats, he goes to sleep. He wakes up, he munches. It's one snack after the other. Has to have the pie or the ice cream. At this point, he's not willing to try something new.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm very eager to find out what the neurologist has to say. Sometimes it takes it's a diagnosis or a word to trigger something in somebody that says, okay, maybe I do need a little bit of assistance. And it's, I was the same way. Susan, I've got this. Everything's good. Not to matter that, I had a bunch of brain fog. I couldn't keep my thoughts straight. Didn't know why I went into a room. But I'm good.
Yeah.
And I wasn't educating myself. And I wasn't learning from other people that, insulin resistance is the base to all of my problems. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't either. And I remember I would go one day. I remember I went 5 times. I backed out of the driveway, and the stop sign on my street is one house up. I got up there, and I'd stopped. It's a T intersection, and I forgot something. So I turned around, came back. I did that 5 times. One was I forgot my phone. The next one I forgot a bag of something. I mean, I 5 different times went back to the house in that short order. And then of course then I had that. Well, I wonder if my mind is on the path, or I'd lose stuff in my head. I'd lose thoughts and words. And I'm a pretty quick guy with vocabulary, aren't I? I'm pretty quick-witted, and I'm pretty semantically correct. I like words. I like semantic. I love words, and so I like to pull them. And boy, that was frustrating when then I'd be like, and I'd want to get them out, and be like, don't tell me. But I'm much better now. I don't really have that, and I come up with stuff all the time. But I've been there. Total brain fog, which is, those are symptoms of insulin resistance, and continued on will be Alzheimer's. It's under the umbrella of dementia. So yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're getting. I'm glad you got that book. That's called what? The Caregiver, or what is it called again?
Role Reversal: How to Take Care of Yourself and Your Aging Parents.
Role Reversal. Good book.
Yeah.
Good book. Was that recommended, or is that one you found talking to doctors?
It was one that I found because I felt like I needed more support. I needed something that I could reference. I can read things online all day long, but unless sometimes I'm a physical copy kind of person, and I really need to. Oh, I know where I can find that, and I can grab the physical copy. I can put all my flags in my book, and I can label them so I know where I'm going, and I can refer back to it. It's talking about care options for help at home. That is literally the page I just opened up to.
Okay.
And we were just speaking about that last call.
Yep.
Is when is it a good time to stop driving? When can you live alone? It's pretty much going to hopefully help me understand where they're coming from, where I'm coming from, and how we can mesh together.
Good. Now, do you belong to any groups or associations at all yet?
I'm not formally a part of any organization. I am doing a walk for to end Alzheimer's with the Alzheimer's Association, in honor of my late grandmother who died of Alzheimer's. Other than that, I have not ventured that direction yet.
Okay, very good. Good. Well, we're a support group. Hey.
Yeah.
You
guys definitely are.
Yeah, this weekend I go to tomorrow actually. Yeah, tomorrow I've got a couple different things. One, I'm having a lunch with a friend of mine who I haven't seen for a while because couldn't see literally. But I got my cataracts done, and now he has another issue with he's going to have an operation by his pituitary. And the doctors want to go back in. So we're going to have lunch tomorrow. And then after that, well, I'm doing the cooking show tomorrow at noon. And then at mid-afternoon, we're going to have some dry rub chicken wings. But of course, I'm going to have my fiber before. And then I'll be with Mom the rest of the weekend. So I'll be there. And Mom, we'll talk about her in a minute. But what about Helen? Now, tell us about Helen a little bit. Tell us a little story about Helen there.
Well, Helen, my fantastic grandmother, most amazing baker, loved to make Mexican wedding cakes. My mom, to this day, tries to find a replica of my grandmother's recipe, which it's just not happening. Grandma, most loving person, kindest heart, always thought of others, loved to bake and have meals that, they were formal. You sit down. Nowadays, there's not a whole lot of family time at the table. There's always a TV involved, or there's a phone involved. We didn't have any of that. The TV was off. This is when you eat. This is when we all come together. And we talk about our day or our week or something we saw. It was always a very, very enjoyable time to be with my grandmother. Now, I lived in Michigan at the time, and she was in Florida. So I would see her about twice a year during spring break and Christmas. And because of her age and the fact that they didn't really travel via airplane or long distances, we would only go to them. Sadly, my grandma did begin to have signs of Alzheimer's and would start wandering. And my grandfather was older than she was and wasn't able, he never really knew when she snuck out the door because, you're so used to, your partner coming and going or your loved one coming and going. So you don't think about it. And it wouldn't be until he'd walk around their condo and realize she wasn't there. And then it was the hunt to find grandma. Sadly, over time, she had fallen on one of these excursions and had broken her hip. And because of my grandfather's failing health, she was not able to come home. Her rights and his rights to care for her in the home were taken away, with the understanding that the hospital has a duty, and they can't let you go to an environment that isn't safe for you in the spot that you're in. My grandmother did suffer from migraines for most of my knowledge, and I just remember her when we did go down to visit, when her Alzheimer's had progressed so much they had to put her in a separate section that was a little more locked down than the other section for Alzheimer and dementia patients. Just sitting there holding her head and rocking herself in the wheelchair. And it was the most heartbreaking thing to see. My grandmother, full of life, full of joy, was hunched over, rocking herself to comfort herself because she was absolutely miserable. And if I would have known then what I know now, I think my grandmother would have, when it was time for her to go meet the heavens, that she would have gone peacefully and not so in torture. Her whole demeanor changed. She thought my 6 foot tall uncle was a terrorist and tried to push him out the window. And she thought I was her daughter. And of course, I'm the granddaughter. And my dad was her husband. And, it affects the whole, the family as a whole. And my brother was younger than me and didn't really understand, why is grandma calling you Karen? And why is dad Lawrence? And, I'm like, grandma's just confused, because I didn't really understand the whole process of Alzheimer's and dementia. And it is so wicked.
And you were 16 at the time, weren't you?
I was 14.
14?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
So, and to see that happen, and you're like, where's my grandma? Like, I physically see her, but why does she think I'm somebody else? I'm looking at my mom, and my mom is crying her eyes out, and she's heartbroken, and I'm like, Mom, I don't understand. Why does she think I'm you? And my mom would just say, honey, she's sick. She's sick is all I kept hearing. She's sick. Okay, well, when is she going to get not sick? When is she going to be better?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
And it's unfortunate that we are still in, the Alzheimer's Association is still trying to end it. We're still doing research on it. When now there is something out there that could help you prevent it because of the insulin resistance.
Exactly.
Or improve it.
Exactly.
And
that's it's there, but the profession doesn't want to talk about it because there's too much gold. There's too much gold in warehousing people.
Yeah.
The two biggest building booms in any town is storage garage for more stuff that you bring home you don't have room for in your basement or your closets because you got too much stuff. And, I just thought about it. The reason Alzheimer's is how it is because you put too much stuff, meaning sugar, in your warehouse, in your body, and they're building warehouses, storage garage for people. That's that's what they're doing. There's storage garages for people. They really are. I mean, some are really nice and Cadillac-y, but there's a whole lot that are. Well, I was just to tell when I would go, if someone's going to shop for a place to go, if they could be private pay, then you went where your nose told you would want to be. Because your nose
want to be as close to your lifestyle as you're used to.
Yeah, and your nose when you walk in the door tells you the aroma, right? The ammonia. It tells you, no, I don't want to be here. But unfortunately, a lot of people's foresight's shorter than their foreskin, and their planning, none. And if they go onto the state program, Medicaid, you don't have a choice. You're going to be warehoused, wherever that is. And the one piece of advice I give to people always is that the people that get the best care, have the most visitors. They get the best care. Now, professionals will say, oh, no, everybody gets the same. Again, I'm just saying from my own personal observation, I know when grandmother was in a facility, and it wasn't because of Alzheimer's, but when she was in, there was somebody there almost every day.
Wow.
And the nurse, one of our family was there almost every day. Mm-hmm. And so the facility knew that we're coming. They knew that this wasn't the holiday visit. Mm-hmm. They knew that we were looking at the bedding. We were looking at the cleanliness. We were looking at all of those types of things. Mm-hmm. And so the people where they have that much attention, just letting you guys know, people that get the best attention get the best care. That's especially in facilities where they're public pay. If it's a public pay, they're on Medicaid, because Medicare doesn't cover it. It's Medicaid. You are impoverished. You have $2,000 of income. The spouse could have, if they're married, still live in the house, but you could have no more than $2,000 of income to your name, and to qualify and if you had like $100,000 and it costs $10,000 for care, and you gave that $10,000 away to your kids because you wanted to qualify for Medicaid, they go back up to 7 years and say, where did this $100,000 go? And they'll go, well, it went to those guys. Well, that's inside that 7-year window. Mm-hmm. You need to go get that money back. And or you will not get benefit from the state until that period of time is run through. Hmm. So if it's $10,000, you gave $100,000 away. That's 10 months that you would have to pay before the state would pay. Mm-hmm. So, that's a thing to understand in planning. It's a deal. It's a real deal as to how we're going to take care of the financial side of it. So, mm-hmm. So we have the emotional side, we got the family side, we got the communal side, and we're dealing with a situation that is preventable, reversible, right, and improvable. I mean, it is, but it revolves around insulin resistance. Now, there's another hormone, and we're going to talk. Cheryl's going to talk a little bit about her experience and with an identical twin. So you're up, my dear.
Okay, anybody that knows me knew that I had an identical twin. This picture was taken. We were about 5 years old.
Look how cute.
I'm on the right. Sharon's on the left.
I get that wrong every time I look at the picture.
Well, I was a little bit bigger. I mean, look at the difference. I mean, I was a little bit taller.
Okay.
But identical. My dad couldn't tell us apart unless we had our husbands and kids with us. Sharon was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's when she was 54 years old. She passed when she was 61. No rhyme or reason. Why her, not me? She was diagnosed at Mayo Clinic. That's an 8th grade picture. Beautiful hair. That was taken at a wedding. For some reason, when Sharon and I were in pictures, I always seemed to be on her. She was on my right and I was on her left. For some reason, that was just how we ended up. I guess we felt more comfortable being that way. I don't know.
Were you in the
we always
tumbler?
did.
Were you in the tumbler? Were you that way?
I don't have a clue. My mom didn't even know she was having twins until she had me. And then my sister was born an hour later.
You're the older one.
So she always rubbed it in that I was older than her. But yeah, I fought for funding that was taken. My sister and I had the same tops on, and how that happened. We probably would have dressed alike anyway for the picture, but we just happened to end up with the same top. And my kids bought mine for me, and her kids bought hers for her. Didn't know either one of them were buying them. Different stores. Yeah, it was just something weird that happened. A lot of things happened. She and I would buy the same. One year we bought the same Mother's Day card for our mom. Completely different stores. Mm-hmm. Just things like that. Our thoughts were always alike. We would finish each other's sentences. My husband would say to me, "You guys are mumbling." We had our own language. We really did. I said, "Well, we know what we're talking about."
And obviously it's not for you to know.
Just general things. We would sit in a room full of people, and my husband actually brought this to my attention. We didn't realize it, but we were sitting in a room full of people. We were sitting together, and we were talking to each other, ignoring completely everybody in the room. But we didn't realize it. We were just, that's the way we were. We felt comfortable with each other. We were very introverted when we were young. My kids don't believe that at all, but we were. I think she was more outgoing than me. She would do things that I wouldn't do. In fact, she started smoking. I don't remember what age. And we had an upstairs bedroom, and she would throw her cigarette butts on the ground outside. I'm surprised my dad didn't find them. Maybe he did and didn't say anything, but they weren't mine.
I was gonna say.
No, they weren't mine. I tried smoking once, and I couldn't handle it.
Okay.
So I tried it.
I learn things every time we talk.
I'm not embarrassed to say I tried it.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just surprised.
Whatever.
That's all right. It's good.
So anyway, we got involved with the Alzheimer's Association. I was
now.
asked,
Who noticed? Who noticed? Did you notice that there were some changes going on? Or what outside things?
Before she was diagnosed, she and her husband were building a new home, and they had built like probably 3 homes before this. And Sharon was always a general contractor. She would pick out things, she'd get them ordered in the timeline they were supposed to be ordered. And her family noticed, because I wasn't around her every day, so I didn't notice like they did. They noticed that she would forget to order things. And it just she wasn't on top of things like she normally used to be. And they started noticing other things. When I really noticed it was that this was after she was diagnosed, but I noticed we went to a wedding in Florida, and it was for her stepson. And we were taking a walk on the beach the day of the wedding, and it was her daughter, me, and Sharon. And Sharon was lagging behind, and that was very unusual. Then I noticed she was getting very insecure. She didn't have her self-confidence. She would call me from work. This was before she was diagnosed. She would call me from work. She was a secretary for a Unit 5 school district. She would call me, and she'd be crying every night. Can't handle this. I can't handle this. Kids are driving me nuts. And then I did find out later that the principal called her husband and said, "I think you should have Sharon checked out. There's something going on here. She seems to not be able to complete her work. The kids are driving her nuts. And so that's when Don, her husband, took her to the doctor. And they first diagnosed it as depression, that happens a lot of time with this disease. And they put her on meds, and that didn't help. I don't know how long after that. Her husband said, why don't I take her to Mayo? And the doctor said, I think it's a good idea. And that's where she was diagnosed. And then I became very involved with the Alzheimer's Association, her daughter also. And there was many pamphlets written about us. This is probably going to be backwards. Alzheimer's Central Illinois chapter. Can you see that right, or is it backwards?
No, it's right.
Okay. And then this little pamphlet, Faces, and then it was all through people with the disease. And Sharon and I. And on the back it says, their story, Cheryl and Sharon have been best friends for a lifetime. They are also identical twins. You would know that the minute you meet them. They talk alike, they laugh alike, they even gesture in the same way. Friends have told them they frequently say the same thing at the same time. They will be the first to tell you they know what each other is thinking. So the reaction came as no surprise when they first heard the news that Sharon had Alzheimer's. We were devastated, said Sharon and Cheryl simultaneously. Then Sharon quickly adds, but we're fortunate because we're in this together. And then Cheryl says, my heart constantly aches knowing she has a disease and I don't. And then I was just asking for a donation to the Alzheimer's. Went to what this was in the newspaper. Went to Washington, D.C. She and I both went, and I gave a speech basically to kind of stimulate, why funding is needed and her story. This was another pamphlet that was in the Alzheimer's thing. There's another one. There was a story written in the newspaper about the whole family picture and different things. And I wrote letters to President Bush. I went to when we were in DC, spoke to some of the representatives from our area. And the one I spoke to, which I guess resonates the most, is because he was Dennis Hassard, and he just sat there and didn't make much response. And I just told him the importance for funding and all this stuff, and said, okay. I wrote letters to different congressmen. And from President Bush, I got a letter, but it's one of those form letters. Maybe he didn't even read it. But whatever. So I felt like it was, kind of, it was disappointing, basically. I guess unless it hits someone in their family, it's not a big deal. And I was surprised that after she was diagnosed, and the amount of people that did not know that it's a killing disease, which it is, their body shuts down. Their brain stops functioning. They quit swallowing, and they can't do anything for themselves. She was basically a vegetable for the last few months of her life. And but a lot of people don't know that. They think it's just a disease where you forget things. Your memory goes. But no, it's more than that.
And part of that sense is the fact that Alzheimer's is not always written down as the cause of death.
Mm-mm.
It's going to be lung, heart, something else. It's not this. It's not written as that. They don't pronounce that as, because we know that currently in lifestyle and preventable lifestyle and dietary diseases, the number one killer, almost half, one out of two almost, is cardiovascular and all the things that account. And then the big C, cancer, is the next piece. It depends on the chart you read. And then it's Alzheimer's. Okay, but if we actually look at the amount of reporting, it's underreported. It's underreported. And all three of those are related to insulin resistance, the inability of the cells to process glucose. They're not sensitive to that. And so that's part of the deal. And when we get hit, we get the opportunity to deal with this. I mean, it's devastating emotionally. And I am proud as heck of you two to be able to have this conversation, because I'll talk about mine in a minute, and I could be the worst blubber in a minute, because I'm kind of still in denial, of what is looking at it. But I mean, here they are, those beautiful girls.
I didn't mention that her daughter was 19 years old when she was diagnosed. It was very hard on her because she had to be, she was at the age where her mom should have been taking care of her, and she had to take care of her mom. Mm-hmm. And she did. She was amazing with her, but yeah, it's heartbreaking. And my sister's brain did go to Harvard. And a friend of mine, which is my niece's mother-in-law, she said she got that to happen, and it was true Alzheimer's. When they're first diagnosed, my sister was first diagnosed with dementia with the probability of Alzheimer's, but because the doctors can't say it was really Alzheimer's until they, they send her brain to Harvard. So I think to save grace, that's what they say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they try to make it calm, but brain runs on glucose and it needs it to unlock. Okay. This is the latest thing that's just come out so we can understand it. This is why researchers now call diabetes type 3. 81% of Alzheimer's patients had either a type 2 diabetes or were impaired with fasting blood glucose, with insulin and fasting blood glucose. So one of the metrics is to know what your fasting insulin is. And doctors generally refuse to take that metric. They generally don't do it. Well, we just don't do that. That's a metric if you're listening, make them. Tell them you have to have that, because your fasting insulin is going to tell you where you are. Your fasting glucose, you can screw that around. It takes 10, 15, 20 years for it to finally show up as diabetes. You could also simply take your triglycerides and divide by HDL and come up with the ratio and see what your insulin resistance ratio is. But really look to get a fasting insulin thing, because metabolic syndrome is associated with 23% increased risk. So if you want to decrease your risk, you need to be able to manage sugar, which is one of the issues that we have. And it's because we eat too flippant often. And it's arguably, it's not how much you eat. It's not the number of calories you eat in a day. It's not the number of carbohydrates you eat in a day. It's that you are eating 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times, nibble, 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 nibble. And that frequency never lets your insulin relax until you finally go to sleep. And then you get up and you have a Dagwood, or you go by the fridge and you, oh, well, I'll just have this. Oh, there's some grapes. I'll just have some grapes. Well, you just woke up your insulin again. Well, I just had a couple. It doesn't matter. And when we're dealing with mental impairment, it's not even a memory. It's not even a thought. It's just like, oh, food, eat. It's like a reflex. It's not eating because we're hungry. It's eating because it's there. And I was like that when I created my metabolic chaos. Right? I mean, I was if it was, I had something with me all the time. I mean, I was the king of Dr. Pepper cream soda. Oh, I was an aficionado on Dr. Pepper cream soda. And I knew where every Panera was across the great state of Illinois, because I was doing store audits. And at that time, for $15 or whatever, you could, every 4 hours, you could pick up a glass of diet. I mean, you could get a soda, right? You could get a tea or whatever. Every 4 hours. I guess it's not down to 2. Could you imagine? Oh my God. Anyway, but like at least every 4 hours, you could go get another off that subscription. I could get 5 a day. I could, and actually half the time I just used the same cup. I just walked in and people would see me enough. They didn't say hi or nothing. They just thought, he's back, get my cup and I'd make my blend of whatever the heck I was going to have and off I'd go. And if you wanted to eat really cheap, you go to Costco or Sam's and for $1 or whatever, and then you get the big sippy cup. You get that free, and another glass of diabetes. Yeah. And then she'll tell you that there's probably nobody in 2024 that ate as many watermelons as I did, nor drank as much milk as I did.
Well, I thought, why is he drinking so much milk? He'd go through a gallon a day. And I'm thinking,
well, it's whole milk. It's whole milk.
But
better for you.
And then I did, of course, I mean, he was in Peoria, I was up here. So I didn't know how much watermelon he was eating. I didn't know what he was eating between the times I saw him, but I knew he was drinking a lot of milk. And he told me he was eating watermelon, but I didn't realize how much.
Yeah, on my card at the end of the year, the Kroger chain, that wasn't the only place I bought them, but Kroger chain puts, your most popular items. What's your number one thing? My number one item was whole watermelon on the year, and the second item was slices of watermelon. So that's, I had 800 in October. My blood glucose fasting at 2 p.m. was 834, and my A1C was 18.1. Now, 2 nights ago on the science call, Dave was on, a new couple, and he beat my record. And I didn't want to have the record, but he beat my record. He had 900 for fasting blood glucose.
But he had a stroke too.
He had a stroke, and he was in a coma for like 5 days and was incubated.
Yeah, he's lucky.
Yeah, I'm blessed I didn't have to go through that part. But so the protocol saves lives. The protocol.
Absolutely. It's saving my life. That's all I've got to say. Saving my life.
And the thing is, the one thing I know, and we've talked about this, is that knowing what we know now, I know without a doubt that had I known this 10 years ago, my mom would not have Alzheimer's. I got no doubt in my mind she would not be on half the medication she's on that created part of that row. Mm-hmm. She's not diabetic, doesn't have insulin resistance that we know of. But the fact of the matter is she has Alzheimer's. She's 96. Now, your mom lived to 97, 8?
95,
95.
but she was so isolated during COVID. She lived in assisted living. She was like basically isolated in a room. Nobody could go see her. I could have got to the point where I couldn't talk to her on the phone because she was hard of hearing and she didn't understand. But then after all this, people could come in, she fell. And I think, and that was her demise. She hit her head. But I think if she wouldn't have been so isolated, she would have been so much better. But
yeah, the isolation was the worst. I mean, that's what you do to prisoners of war.
Well, basically, they were prisoners.
Yeah, exactly. They were. I mean, I remember the only way you could talk to your mom, literally talk to your mom, was go up against the window, and she could hardly hear, and it was winter, and so you're out on the snow and.
No, actually, I was in the vegetable.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they took her into the.
Oh, they did move her around.
Chapel.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I remember that I remember going up to the window.
Couldn't talk to her.
Couldn't be next to her. Yeah, and so my mom, I'm going to be with Mom. Her name's Nisa, Neysa, and there's 10 of us kids, 5 boys and 5 girls, and we live in 8 different states. And Mom, a spectacular woman. She would still be having babies if she could, I think. But she said that, hasn't she? Yeah. So at age 51, she went back to college. At age 56, had her doctorate and her 4-year RN degree. So the lady is not without faculties. And she has been inducted into 3 Hall of Fames. She's been awarded the Jefferson Award. We were Scott Family of the Year. She started in our little bitty town. She started Cub Scouts because she needed something for us to do. Then she started Brownies because the girls needed to have something to do as they got older. That was what she was doing. She became. We went to you don't know this yet, but we were we always traveled as a pod. There was no such thing as babysitters. There was no such thing as a babysitter. There's 10 of us. We're together. We're the brown people. We're running around. You're Filipino. Mom is white as snow. The rest of us dads are Filipino. And so and in the summers we get dark. And so we're all always in a pod. Well, my brother Tom and I are as close as brothers could be, being, he's in Florida and I'm up here. But so we're playing in a baseball game and there was all this commotion going on at the park. And this was in Sioux Falls at Drake Springs, and it was a swimming meet. And we'd never seen such a thing. We had no idea. And so, can we do this? Can we do this? And they go, yeah, you have to buy a card and come back tomorrow. You had to join the AAU and you buy a card, you can come back tomorrow. So my brothers and sisters we're doing that, and Tom and I are playing baseball. And we got second in the tournament. And when we were done, we went over to the pool and started swimming. Well, we have never been to a swim meet, much less participated. And it was a state swimming meet. Teresa was a state champion. Tom became, we were winning and placing in events. We didn't know what the heck was going on. And so they invited Mom, the AAU Jack Domingue invited Mom to go to Pierre, which was the capital of South Dakota, and to this meeting. So she says, yeah. And we go, where you going? When the date, she goes, where are you going? She's going to Pierre. Pierre, that's the capital. All we could think of was, 1, Mom is leaving us. She never goes anywhere without us. And 2, she's going to the capital. All we could think of is Oz, the great and magnificent. That's our idea, what we thought. If you ever saw the capital of South Dakota, it's not the Wizard of Oz. But yeah. And they told her, hey, you're going to be Secretary Treasury AAU. And she says, okay. She didn't know what that meant, but what it meant was we had to do it. She was going to do a newsletter. And so we're doing a newsletter. And this was the day where you'd take gel pans, mimeograph paper, put it on the gel pan, you put the piece of paper on it, and we had the house covered with pieces of paper that were drying. Anyway, that's part of mom's legacy. But yeah, I'm Cheryl knows that this is I have to talk on the surface. I have to talk around this topic on my mom because it's not going to be good. It's not happy at all.
Well, George, just remember that you're not alone in this journey.
No, I get it. Trust me, I do. But it's dealing with this. This will be, I'm 73, and I've never not known her. Mm-hmm. And at least she knows this. She knows me. I was here. Stopped last week. I stopped last week. She goes, "What's in me?" Go, "It's been a while." And I go, "Yeah, it's been a while." I couldn't see, so I couldn't, And but I said I'll be here this weekend. And so she's excited that I'm going to be here this weekend. So we all take turns, and some take more turns than others. And normally I'm just 20 minutes, 15 minutes away. But so anyway, that's kind of where we're at with mom. The one thing is that kind of looking at this kind of thing is we want everybody to understand that listen to this call that the big thing about it is it is and does take a physical toll. It is and does take a mental toll. It is and does take a physical toll. It is and does take a financial toll. It takes a moral compass toll. And it really takes a family. It takes a village. It takes it because there needs to be respite care. There needs to be a timeout. I mean, Jennifer doesn't get a timeout. Now her brother and I think are in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they come one day a weekend.
Yeah, and so that's going to get harder and bigger if the longer we stay in the home, the longer we don't have additional help, the longer that kind of thing. So if you're watching this and when you watch this, these are things that you need to, you don't have to do anything. You do anything you want. However, we highly suggest you have these conversations, you get the documents in place, you have the hard conversations. Now, the smart ass in the room will say, well, I'm not going to worry about it because I know where the gun is. The chuckle is that, yeah, but you might not remember where the bullets are. And that's the sad part because it's a real thing. Nobody wants to be a burden. Nobody wants to do that to their family. But sometimes if you don't know and don't have the discussions, you're going to be faced with it in an environment that's going to be more than hard to deal with, especially if you have to get a guardianship. If there's no documents, then you have to go to court and get a guardianship. And that person that you're working to get a guardianship on can fight that.
Yes, they can.
They can fight that. Mm-hmm. And they will win until they can't win. And then, so these are hard discussions. And you guys are both brave young women. And it means the world that you guys can share your stories because it takes a lot of courage to do that. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of hurt, but there's a lot of joy in knowing that you can help others, that your experiences can help others. And this is also helps you go through this. So, guys, I'll see you on Sunday. I'll have a report on Mom, Nisa. You guys can laugh at me for that one, I'm sure. But we want you to know that the protocol that we use is very, very simple. It helps control your blood sugar. It helps with insulin resistance. It helps with gut biosis. It helps with anabolic resistance. This helps you heal. This helps you get more clarity. This helps your circulation. This helps let your brain have the energy it needs when it needs it. This helps you get rid of all the things that are I mean, do you want to be medication free or not? Then don't. But if you'd like to get off the pills, you got a shot. Jennifer's proving it with her mom. There's already clarity. There's already nuances that change. And it's internal things that start. The ability to sleep, the ability not to have to go to the bathroom, the ability not to have your gums bleed, the ability not the skin tags, brain fog. You know, the ability. So the little things, and they mount up, they mean something, especially when you're a caregiver. When you're a caregiver, every improvement matters. Jennifer, great. I'll see you in the morning.
Sounds fantastic.
I'll see you in a minute. And we'll see everybody else Sunday. Thank you.
All right. See you.
Bye.